Hello all, I am Dr. Vibhash Vaidya and in this video we're going to discuss about the histology of stomach. So stomach is a most distensible part of the gastrointestinal tract. This stomach has a hollow muscular organ and it lies between the esophagus and the duodenum. Anatomically, the stomach has the cardiac and fundus, body and the pyloric part. And if we're talking about the histological structure, so histologically the stomach has usually 4 layers of gut. That is, most inside here it has a mucosa. After the mucosa, it has a submucosa, muscularis externa and the serosa. So student, in our coming slide, we are going to discuss about the histological structure of this different layer of the gut, that is mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa and the serosa. So before going to discuss about this different layer of the gut, we are going to discuss about the internal structure of the stomach. So the stomach has a longitudinal fold. You can see in this histological picture, this fold or longitudinal fold is known as the rugae, and this rugae is disappear on the distension of the stomach. Then on the second picture, we can see here a small gastric pit, and this gastric pit are a depression on a mucosal surface with the opening of the simple tubular gastric gland. Here we can see these are the simple tubular gastric gland. So this gastric pit which act as an opening of this gastric gland. Along with the gastric pit and gland, here we have another internal structure, that is a gastric canal. So basically, what is gastric canal? It is a longitudinal fold which runs along with the lesser curvature. Then here you can see these are the surface epithelium, and this surface epithelium cells which secretes the gel-like mucus, and this mucus is known as the mucus coating, and this secreting gel-like mucus which act as a protection of the stomach from the acidic content. So in the internal structure of the stomach, we have this 4 type of the structure, that is a rugae, gastric pit, gastric canal, then this mucus coating. Now first we are going to discuss about the histology of the cardiac region of the stomach. So as we have already discussed, the stomach has the cardiac region, fundic region, body and the pyloric region. So student, we will going to discuss about the histology of this cardiac region. So as we have already discussed, apart from this region, this stomach is made of the 4 layer of the gut. From most inside, it has a mucus, then submucus, then this muscularis externa, then this serosa. So first we are going to discuss about the mucus, and here this is the mucosal layer of the cardiac region of the stomach. And student, always remember, further this mucosal layer is made of these 3 layers. Most interior layer is known as the lining epithelium, and we can see this lining epithelium is rest on the lamina propria, and this is the muscularis mucosa. So if we are talking about the lining epithelium, so the lining epithelium is a simple columnar with the mucous cells. Here you can see the cells are the simple columnar cell, and in between this cell, here we can see a space is known as the mucous cells. And we can also appreciate here there is no goblet cells and the microglial cells. And this simple columnar cells which rest on this lamina propria, which is the second layer of the mucus and mucosa. And this lamina propria is a simple tubular gastric gland. Here you can see it is made of the simple tubular gastric gland, and this gastric gland which is lined with the columnar epithelium, and this gastric gland's duct is opens in the gastric pit. So here we can see this gastric gland which opens in the gastric pit. Then after the this lamina propria, here we can see a small layer of this muscularis mucosa. So here these are the muscularis mucosa, and this muscularis mucosa is very thin layer of the smooth muscle, and it is made of the inner circular and the outer longitudinal layer. So here we have a muscularis mucosa. Then after the mucosa, we can see here this is the submucosal layer. And student, always remember the submucosal layer which is made of the dense regular connective tissue. And in this submucosal layer we can also appreciate a plexus of autonomic nervous system, and this plexus is known as the Meissner's plexus. Then after the submucosal layer, here we have a muscularis externa, and this muscularis externa which is made of three layers, that is most interior layer is known as the oblique muscles, it is made of the oblique muscle. Then middle layer is circular, then most outer layer is known as the longitudinal muscles. And always remember student, in between the three layer of the muscularis externa, here we can appreciate a plexus of the autonomic nervous system, and that is known as the Meissner's plexus. Now the fourth layer of the cardiac region of the stomach, that is known as the serosa, and we can also appreciate here a small blood vessels or capillaries is present in this serosal layer, and this capillary which is lined with the mesothelium which is present in the peritoneum. So this is about the histological picture of the cardiac region. Now this chart which shows the different histological pictures of the cardiac part of the stomach. So as we have already discussed, it has a most interior layer is known as the mucosa, then other second, third and fourth layer is submucosa, muscularis externa and serosa. Further, this mucosa has three layers, that is the epithelial layer, lamina propria and muscularis mucosa. Epithelium, which is we have already discussed, the surface mucous cell, that is known as the columnar cell, and then this lamina propria is a simple tubular gland, and this lamina propria which secretes the mucus which act as a lubricant. Then muscularis mucosa which present in between the mucus and submucosal layer, and further it is made of the inner circular and outer longitudinal. Then we have a submucosal layer which is made of the dense connective tissue. Muscularis externa, it has three layers. Interior layer is the oblique layer or oblique muscle. Then middle layer is this circular, and outer layer is a longitudinal. Then fourth layer is known as the serosa. So this is a small recap of the histological picture of the cardiac part of the stomach. Now we're going to discuss about the histology of the fundus and the body of the stomach. So as we have discussed, the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, externa and serosa or adventitia of this fundus and the body are the same, but in the mucosal layer here we have some additional cells, and these cells are the mucous neck cells, chief zymosan cells, parietal, that is known as the oxyntic cells, or endocrine cells. So one by one we are going to discuss about these cells also. So as we have discussed, it has a mucosal layer. Lining epitheliums are same as we have discussed in the cardiac region, that is a simple columnar epithelium which rests on this lamina propria. You can see here, this is the lamina propria. Then submucosal layer, these are the submucosal layer, and in between the submucosal layer and the mucosa we have a muscularis mucosa, which is made of the inner circular, outer longitudinal. Then we have a this submucosal layer. After the submucosal layer we have a muscularis externa, and this muscularis externa is made of three layers: inner oblique, middle circular and outer longitudinal, and fourth layer is a serosa. So apart from this histological structure, in this mucosa part it has some additional cells. So these cells, first is a mucus or neck cells. So basically the mucus or neck cells which present in the neck of the this pit, and these cells are the tall columnar with the basal nuclei which is light in color. Then cheap zymosan cells, and this cheap zymosan cells is also known as the peptic cells, and you can see here this peptic cells is pink. This peptic cells is blue colored and it secretes the pepsinogen. Here this is the cheap and zymosal cells. Then you can see here another cell, that is a parietal or oxyntic cells. So here we can see this is the parietal and oxyntic cells. It is pink colored triangular cells, and this parietal or oxyntic cells which secrete the HCl. Then the enteroendocrine cells. This enteroendocrine cells which secrete the gastric, serotonin or histamine. So basically this mucosal part of this fundus and body has these four types of cells: mucus or neck cells, cheap or zymosal cells, parietal or oxyntic cells, and enteroendocrine cells. So here in this slide, this is a small recap of this histology of the fundus or body of the stomach. So as we have discussed, it has a mucosa and other three layers, that is a submucosa, muscularis externa and serosa. The lining epithelium of the mucosa is a simple columnar epithelium with the surface mucous cells and short gastric pit. Here you can see in this picture, that is a lining epithelium with this different additional cells. Then here you can see this is the lamina propria, and the lamina propria is long gastric gland. It is made of the long gastric gland. Then we have a muscularis mucosa. Here we can see this is the muscularis mucosa, inner circular, outer longitudinal. So as we have discussed, it has four type of additional cells. This is the mucus neck cells. You can see here this mucus neck cells are visible in mucus area. So in this area we can appreciate the mucus and neck cells. Here it is look like a simple columnar epithelium with a round nuclei. Then this is the oxyntic or parietal cells. Here these are the oxyntic or parietal cells, and this Oxantic or parietal cells is pink color. It shows as a pink color, and it is round in shape. Or intrinsic factor, that is it secretes the SCI. Then this chief cells, here we can see this, the chief cells is also known as the zymosan cells, and it secretes the pepsinogen. It is more or less this columnar shape. Then endocrine cells, which is it secretes the gastrin, serotonin and histamine. And stem cells, which divide and replace with other cells. So these are some additional cells, and these cells are very important, which is mainly present in the fundus and the body of this stomach area. In this slide, we further discuss about the cell of the gastric gland, the mucus cells, chief cells, parietal cells, endocrine cells, and stem cells. So if we are talking about the location of these different type of cells, if we are talking about the mucus cell, so it is mainly located in the neck of the gland. So if we are talking about the chief or zymosan cells, so this cells is mainly present in the lower third of the gland, and about the parietal or oxantic cells, it present in the upper part of the gland, and endocrine cells, which is present in the lower part of the gland, and the stem cells, which is present in the neck region of the gland. And if we are talking about the identification feature, in case of the mucus or neck cells, it is columnar cells with the oval nuclei, as we have already discussed in our previous slide. And if we are talking about the chief and zymosan cells, so these cells are dark basophilic cytoplasmic cells. Here this is the chief cells. Then if we are talking about the parietal or oxantic cells, so it is also dark and acidophilic cytoplasm. These chief cells are dark basophilic, but these parietal cells are the acidophilic in nature. Then in case of this endocrine cells, these are the silver staining erythrophilic cells, and these adult stem cells can be identified the immunobiochemistry test through this test. Then about the function, so the mucus cells, which act as a soluble mucus, the chief cell which secrete the pepsinogen, this parietal or oxantic cell which secrete the SCI or intrinsic factors, that endocrine cell which secrete the gastrin or serotonin, histamine, and adult stem cell which divide and migrate with the upward and downward. And if we are talking about the lifespan, different type of cell, so the mucus cell lifespan has a 6 days. The chief and zymosan cells lifespan is a 150 to 200 days. Parietal or oxantic cells is 60 to 90 days. Endocrine cells, the lifespan is 4 to 6 days. So another picture you can see, this is the schematic picture of the parietal cells, chief cells, endocrine cells, which is a very close type of picture. Now we are going to discuss about the pyloric region, histology of the pyloric region of the stomach. So the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, and serosa and adventitia are same as we have discussed in case of the cardiac part or body and funded part of the stomach. But difference are the gastric pit. You can see here, these are the gastric pit. The gastric pit are deeper than the fundus or body of the stomach, and these gastric glands are more coiled with the chief cells, which is mainly absent. So here we can see otherwise all the layer are same. You can see here this is the lining epithelium, which is simple columnar epithelium. Then here we have a lamina propria. Then these are the pyloric gland mainly. Then here we have a muscularis mucosa, which is mainly made of the inner circular outer longitudinal this submucosal layer, which is made of dense connective tissue, and these are the muscularis externa, that is inner oblique, then circular and longitudinal muscle. So in this slide we'll discuss the little cap of this histological feature of the pyloric stomach. The mucosa, as we have discussed, the lining epithelium cells. The lining epithelium is same with the long gastric pits, the lamina propria, the short pyloric gland lined by the mucus secreting cells, and muscularis mucosa. We have discussed the inner circular, outer longitudinal, and other three layers are same: mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, and serosa. Then here you can see the schematic picture of this pyloric part of the stomach. This is the lining epithelium. Then we can see this is the gastric pit, and some difference as we have noticed in this region, the gastric pits are long as compared to the fundus or body part, and we can see here the gastric pits are the more coiled. You can see here these pits are the more coiled. Then here we can see some lymphatic follicle also present in this lamina propria. Then this pyloric glands which present in this region. Then this is the muscularis mucosa, and this is the submucosal layer. Now this slide we're going to discuss about the difference between the histology of fundus or body and the pyloric region of the stomach. So here we have a feature of the fundus region, and this is the feature of the pyloric region. If we're talking about the gastric pit, so in case of the fundus or body of the stomach, this gastric pit are shallow, occupy with the upper third of thickness of the mucosa. But in case of the pyloric region of the stomach, it is a deeper and it occupy about 2/3 thickness of the mucosa. If we talking about the glands, so these glands are occupy lower 2/3 thickness of the mucosa, and in case of the pyloric region, it occupy lower 1/3 thickness of the mucosa. The gland coiling at the base less coiled, but in case of the pylorus it is more coiled, as we have already discussed in our previous slide. If we are talking about the lumen are narrow, and in case of the pylorus it is wider. Cells mainly present in case of this fundus, the parietal cells, chief cells, mucus or neck cells. But in case of the pylorus part, mostly one type of cells, that is a mucus secreting cell, that is a chief cells, mainly the chief cells are absent. So this is a difference between the histological features between the fundus or body and the pyloric region of the stomach. So I hope all of you understood about the topic. Thank you for watching.